Okay, good morning, everyone. We are now streaming live on YouTube, so that way the public can have access to these court proceedings. My name is Judge Farrey. I am with Clayton County Magistrate Court, and today I will be presiding. I'm sorry about that. I was getting some feedback. Can you all hear me just fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So like I mentioned, my name is Judge Farrey with the Clayton County Magistrate Court, and I will be presiding over your first appearance hearing today. So I'm going to be making some important announcements this morning. So make sure you listen up carefully because these announcements will apply to most of you, if not all of you. Today is what is called your first appearance. We are not here to try your case, nor are we here to take a plea today. During your first appearance hearing, I will inform you of those charges that have been brought against you. I will advise you of certain rights that you have in this proceeding and throughout all other proceedings. I will inform you of the bond amount if I am authorized to set bond for you. I will also let you know when your next court date will be, which will be the preliminary hearing date if it's necessary. And I will also advise you whether or not you qualify to have a court-appointed attorney to represent you in your case. Now, you do have the right to remain silent and say nothing. But should you give up this right, anything you say during this proceeding may be used against you if this case goes to trial. During this proceeding and all other proceedings, you will have the following rights. You will have the right to remain silent and presume innocence until the state proves your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You have the right to indictment by a grand jury for most felonies, or if you're charged with a misdemeanor, you have the right to an indictment by accusation. You have the right to a speedy and public trial by jury. You have the right to see, hear, and cross-examine witnesses who are called to testify against you. You have the right to compel the attendance of witnesses in your own behalf by subpoena. You have the right to testify and offer other evidence in your own defense if you choose to do so. However, if you choose not to do so, there will be no presumption of guilt raised against you. And you have the right to have an attorney represent you in these proceedings. Now, some of you will be allowed to post what is called an unrestricted bond. This bond may be posted in three ways. Number one, a cash bond. Number two, a commercial bond. Number three, a property bond. So if you decide to post a cash bond, you will pay the full amount of the bond in cash to the sheriff's office, plus any applicable mandated fees that they are required to charge. The sheriff will hold that cash until after the final disposition of your case. Then the cash bond will be returned to the person that posted the bond. That's the first option. If you decide to not pay your bond by cash, you can post what is called a commercial bond by going through a commercial bonding company that is approved by the sheriff's department. Now, these are private companies who charge different fees to post the bond for you. The bonding companies usually charge up to 15% of the total amount of the bond as their fee for their services. Once you pay this fee to the bonding company, you do not get this money back. So for example, if your bond is $1,000, you can choose to post that bond by paying $1,000 in cash to the sheriff's office plus any fees. That money is returned to you. However, if you choose to post bond using a commercial bonding company and your bond amount is $1,000, if you call the commercial bonding company and they tell you that their fee is 12%, then you have to pay them 12% of $1,000, which is $120. If they tell you it's 15%, you have to pay them $150. and then they will post the $1,000 bond for you. And the fee that you pay to the commercial bonding company, you do not get that back. Now, don't ask me how much the percentage is because it varies from commercial bonding company to bonding company. So you'll have to get on the phone, talk to some different bonding companies and find out what their fees are. I do not know what their fees are. The third option is you can post the bond using a property bond. And you will need to find someone who has property with net equity in their property for at least 3 times the total amount of the bond. So again, using my example, if your bond is $1,000 and you want to use a property to post that bond, then that property's equity needs to have at least 3 times the $1,000 amount. So there needs to be at least $3,000 worth of net equity in that property in order for you to use a property bond. So you need to think about what option you want to use when determining whether or not you're going to go through a bonding company, property bond, or cash bond. Now, if you are given a bond here today, some of you will have special conditions on your bond that prohibit you from contacting certain people or going to or around certain places. And this special condition will be listed on your bond order. For example, if I tell you that you are to have no contact with someone, that means you are to stay away, absolutely, directly or indirectly, by mail, email, pager, telephone, third person, social media, stay away from their home, their work, or any of their immediate family members of any witnesses. That's what I mean by stay away. If I tell you not to go on a particular premises, then you cannot return to that particular premises. Now, if you share a residence with the alleged victim, and I tell you that you are to have no contact with the alleged victim, and I also tell you that you can't go back to that particular residence that you share with the alleged victim, I will give you the option to schedule an appointment with the sheriff of Clayton County within 10 days of being released from jail, so you can go back to the residence to retrieve some of your personal belongings that's not in dispute. So I will give you that opportunity to do that. Now, if you violate your bond condition, your bond will be revoked and you will not be entitled to another bond while you wait for trial. And there may be an additional charge of aggravated stalking, influencing a witness, or any other charges that the law may provide. You could also be sentenced up to 10 years in prison and fined up to $20,000. So please take these bond conditions seriously. For family members who will be assisting you in posting your bond, they will be provided information about your bond amount after we have concluded the first appearance calendar here this morning. Now, keep in mind, however, if your family member is the named victim on the warrant and that there is a special condition in place that you are to have no contact with that family member, he or she will not be allowed to post the bond for you. You will have to find someone else. Now, some of you are charged with offenses for which this court is not authorized by law to set a bond for you. In this event, I will give you your bond hearing date, which I can tell you now, if I deny your bond hearing date is going to be September 24th, 2021. And so during that bond hearing date, you will appear before a superior court judge and you can discuss the issue of bond at that time. If you are currently on active probation, this court may not be authorized to set a bond for you. We will give your probation officer an opportunity to decide if he or she will file a warrant to revoke your probation. And this is typically done during your preliminary hearing. Now, your preliminary hearing is the court date that I'll be giving to each and every one of you. The preliminary hearing date is a probable cause hearing date. And the purpose of the preliminary hearing date is to determine whether there's enough evidence or probable cause to keep you detained on your charges until such time that your case goes to trial. Now, the purpose of that preliminary hearing, as I mentioned, is to determine whether or not there's enough evidence to keep you in jail. If you bond out, your preliminary hearing date is automatically waived because you're no longer in jail. But if you do not bond out, that preliminary hearing date will remain in place and you will appear before a superior court judge to determine whether or not probable cause exists for us to continue to detain you. Now, for those of you who are charged with misdemeanors only, the preliminary hearing date that I will be assigning you is going to be September 21st if you have misdemeanors only. Now, if you're charged with both felonies and misdemeanors, or you're just charged with a felony, your preliminary hearing date for your felony will be, or excuse me, for your case will be September 20th. And I will repeat these dates when you come up before me one by one. Now, keep in mind that this is a formal court proceeding. We are streaming live on YouTube. These recordings are accessible. So be mindful of what you state to this court once you come before me. Also, even though we are appearing by video conference, I still expect each and every one of you to conduct yourself respectfully as if we were physically in the courtroom. If you do not conduct yourself respectfully and I cannot proceed with your hearing today, then I will not address your case today and I will send you back and then we'll try again tomorrow. So please keep that in mind. Now, if I could go ahead and have each and every one of you raise your right hands while I swear you in. Do you swear and affirm that the statements you give before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do and lower your hands. Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead and start with the female inmates.
Yes, ma'am. The first one we're gonna have Miss Barton. No, Miss Alexander.
Okay, I was gonna say I have Miss Alexander on my list. Excuse me. Okay, are you Michelle Alexander? Okay, you've been charged with one count of battery. Your bond has been set at $5,000 because you were previously convicted of battery back in 2016 in Coweta County. This is being upgraded from a misdemeanor to a felony. So this is a felony charge. Your bond is set at $5,000 as I've mentioned. Do you understand what I've stated as far as your charge and your bond amount? Speak up for me just a little bit. I can't hear you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You do have a special condition to your bond, and that is to stay away from Dianera Abrams, and you are to not return to 5724 Riverdale Road in Clayton County, Georgia. If that is a shared residence, I will allow you to go back and retrieve any undisputed property. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your bond condition?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, Your Honor.
I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed attorney, and I have approved that request. So I have appointed an attorney to represent you. Your next hearing date is your preliminary hearing, which will be scheduled for September 21st, 2021. But that court date will be waived in the event that you do bond out, just as you've mentioned. Do you have any questions for me?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Next is Miss Barboza.
Are you Akeisha Barboza?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am, you have been charged with one count of simple battery. That bond has been set at $2,500. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charge and your bond amount?
Yes.
Okay, do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes.
You do have a special condition to your bond, and that is to stay away and have no contact with Garen Smith or Jaron Smith, and you cannot return to 7551 Chancey Lane in Riverdale, Georgia. I have stated here that you can go back and retrieve any personal items within 10 days of being released from the sheriff's department, and you have to be accompanied by a sheriff. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your bond condition?
Yes.
Okay. I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed counsel, and I have approved your request, and I'm appointing an attorney to represent you. Your next hearing date is your preliminary hearing date, which is scheduled for September 21st, 2021. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Next is Ms. Haviz.
Okay, are you Shanoa Hafiz?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am, you've been charged with maximum speeding, obstructing an officer, too fast for conditions, reckless driving, and license not on person. Your total bond amount between all of those charges is $4,500. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charges and your bond amount? Do you believe you'll be able to make bond? Okay, I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed counsel, and I've approved your request, so I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Your next court date is your preliminary hearing date, which is being scheduled for September 21st, 2021. If you bond out, that court date will be waived, and you'll receive a new notice in the mail. Do you have any questions, Ms. Hafiz?
No.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Next is Ms. Harris.
Are you Aaron Harris?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Harris, you've been charged with one count of battery. That bond has been set at $5,000. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charge and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Ma'am.
There are some special conditions to your bond, and that is to stay away and have no contact with, it looks like the name is Keenan Hunt. Are you familiar with Keenan Hunt?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you are to not return to 10346 Wisteria Lane in Jonesboro, Georgia. If that is a shared residence, you will be able to go back and retrieve any personal belongings. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as those conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed counsel, and I've approved it. So I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Your next court date is being scheduled for September 21st, 2021. If you bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new court notice in the mail. Just make sure you update your address with the court. You have any questions for me, Ms. Harris?
No, ma'am.
You sure?
I just wanted to know that being that is where it's my property, when would I be able to go and get all my kids' clothing and stuff?
So, I'm sorry.
That's where I reside, as in I let my brother come stay with me. I'm just trying to figure out when I can go get my kids' clothes.
Is Keenan Hunt your brother?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. And so both of you were living at that residence, correct?
I filed an eviction, and yes, ma'am, I filed an eviction, but it didn't go through. I guess he hasn't been served yet.
Okay, but you both are living there. Is that right? Okay. When did you file that? Was that in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am. On the 30th.
Okay. When you say it didn't go through, what do you mean by that?
I haven't put the served him on my door yet, so he's gotten word that I filed the eviction, which caused this, but he did not get served yet.
Okay, so Ms. Harris, and who is it? Just you and him that live there?
Oh, it's me and my 4 kids that live there.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave the condition in here that you can't have any contact with them. But what I've done is I removed the condition about not going back to the property based on what you've stated to me. However, if he is still there and you can't have any contact with him, then technically you can't go back. You see what I'm saying? But if for some reason he's not there, he gets evicted, he leaves, whatever the case may be, you can certainly go back because I'm removing that condition. I understand that's where you reside with your 4 kids. But keep in mind, you can't have any contact with them. So be careful about how you go back there. But what I will do, at least, I'm still going to keep the condition in here that you are allowed to go back to at least retrieve your personal belongings if he's still physically residing there.
And I can get that, get a sheriff I can call before I go to get somebody to be there while I retrieve my items.
Yes, you absolutely have to call the sheriff's department to go back. Okay. Just do that within 10 days of being released if he's still there.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Have a good day.
Next is Mr. Appleton.
Okay, are you Aaron Appleton? Okay, and so just speak up for me so I can hear you through your mask. You've been charged with 1 count of criminal trespass damage to property. Your bond is $1,500. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charge and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
There are some special conditions to your bond, and that is to stay away from Opal Brothwaite, and you are not to return to 8189 Greens Court in Jonesboro, Georgia. Do you understand those special conditions, sir? Okay. I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed attorney. I do find that you qualify, so I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Your next court date is going to be the preliminary hearing date, and that is September 21st, 2021. But if you do bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new notice in the mail. Do you have any questions, Mr. Appleton?
No.
All right, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Next is Mr. Arthur.
Are you Jason Arthur?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Arthur. So you've been charged with 1 count of driving away without paying for gas. That is a misdemeanor. That bond is $2,000. And then there's 1 charge of financial transaction card fraud. That bond amount is $5,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is charged as a felony.
Yes,
Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your bond and your charges?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so your total, I'm sorry.
I was just asking something. You was about to tell me my total whenever I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Your total between both charges is $7,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am. I've actually already signed the bond paperwork. I was just waiting for an actual amount.
Okay. So there is a special condition, Mr. Arthur, and that is to not go back to the gas station Sun Petro. And
Yes,
that's located at 132 Forest Parkway in Forest Park, Georgia. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed counsel. I find that
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I already have a counsel for this situation. His name is David Gaza. I don't know if you needed that.
No, I don't need his name, but I'm going to indicate on here that you plan to hire your own attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I've indicated that. So let your attorney know that your preliminary hearing date is being scheduled for September 20th, 2021. But if you bond out, that court date will be waived and then you'll receive a new court date in the mail.
Yes, ma'am.
Understood? Do you have any questions, sir?
No, ma'am.
All right, have a good day. Thank you.
Next is Mr. Baron.
Good morning. Are you Michael Barron? Okay, so Mr. Barron, you've been charged with 1 count of hit and run. That bond is $1,500, and 1 count of improper lane change. That bond is $500. So your total bond amount is $2,000. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charges and your bond amount?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I only respond to words. Okay. All right. Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
No, ma'am.
Okay, looking at your application for court-appointed counsel, It says you're unemployed, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so I am appointing an attorney to represent you in this proceeding because you do qualify. Your preliminary hearing date is being scheduled for September 21st, 2021, since these are misdemeanor charges. In the event that you do not bond out and you're still confined, you will be brought before the court to have a hearing on your preliminary charges. Do you have any, excuse me, on your criminal charges? You have any questions for me, sir?
How long does this go out to? This misdemeanor, what does this go out to? How much time can I be convicted of?
That's something you'll need to talk to your lawyer about. But like I said, these are misdemeanor charges. So you'll have to talk to your lawyer about that option. Do you have any questions about the bond amount or the charges, or are you being appointed a lawyer?
Yeah, can the bond be reduced?
So in determining bond, one thing I look at, Mr. Barron, is the criminal history when determining the bond amount. And based on your criminal history, I am not inclined to reduce it. One option you can do is if you want to waive your preliminary hearing, that's that September 21st court date. We can waive that court date and you'll be brought before the court a little faster and earlier before September 21st.
I like to waive that because these are misdemeanors. They're not felonies.
No, they're misdemeanors. So if you want to waive it, then what I'll do is I'll indicate to the deputies there to provide you with a waiver form. So if you all can give him a waiver form and send it over to me. Okay. And
also, Judge,
hang on. Make sure I can read your name on the waiver form. Okay. So make sure it's indicated there clearly. Do you have any other questions about the charges and the bond amount, sir?
So, Judge, I'm being housed in an area where I ain't got no mat, no toothbrush, no toothpaste, no nothing, no cups of water.
We'll talk to them about that. That's not her concern. It's print your name right now.
Yeah, talk to the deputies about that, sir. And then, like I said, I appointed an attorney to represent you, Mr. Barron, okay? All right.
Thanks a lot, Judge.
No problem. Have a good day.
Next is Mr. Burton, Isaiah. Burts, Isaiah.
Good morning. Are you Isaiah Burts?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have been charged with several offenses, following too closely, reckless driving, theft by receiving stolen property, fleeing and attempting to elude the police, possession of a Schedule I controlled substance in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act, possession of a possession of a weapon during the commission of a crime, use or possession of drug-related objects, improper lane change, and there's another charge of violating the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. So between all of those offenses, your total bond amount is $23,000. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charges and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am. So there's
let her finish.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have scheduled your preliminary hearing date because there are some felony charges here. Your preliminary hearing date is September 20th, 2021. And I've reviewed your application for court-appointed counsel. I've approved that. So I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions, sir?
Do I have to pay 10% of the bond?
I don't know. What you need to do is contact some bonding companies if you want to use a commercial bond. They have different fees. So you need to ask the bonding companies how much they charge. Just let them know that your bond is $23,000. And so they'll be able to tell you how much you have to pay them, okay?
Okay.
All right, have a good day. Thank you.
Next is Mr. Brown, Bobby. Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning. Are you Bobby Brown?
Yes.
Okay, sir, you've been charged with simple battery. That bond amount is $3,000, as well as criminal trespass. That bond amount is $1,500. So your total bond is $4,500. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charges and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there are some special conditions, Mr. Brown, and that is to stay away and have no contact with Bianca Roberts. And also you cannot return to 5420 Riverdale Road, Building M as in Mary, Apartment 10 in Riverdale, Georgia. The warrant did indicate that it was a shared resident, so you can go back within 10 days accompanied by the sheriff's department to retrieve any personal belongings that's not in dispute. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your bond conditions?
Yes.
Okay, so your preliminary hearing date is being scheduled for September 21st, 2021. And I have approved your request to have a court-appointed attorney, so you will have an attorney represent you on that day. But if you do bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new court notice in the mail. Just make sure that the court has your current address, okay?
Okay. Another thing. The address you said I can't go back to, this is in my name, it's my apartment. And that's the only resident I have to go to. I don't have nowhere else to go.
I saw on the warrantless arrest affidavit that Bianca Roberts is your living girlfriend. You all have 5 kids and you've been living together for some time.
We have 6 kids together.
You have 6 kids and you all been living together for some time?
We've been living together 9 years.
Okay. And Ms. Roberts and the 6 kids are at that residence too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm not going to allow you to go back. Now, what you can do is talk to your lawyer and see if the bond condition can be modified. But given the charges and the circumstances, I'm not going to allow you to go back there, sir. So you're just going to have to stay away until such time that these bond conditions have been modified.
But so that means I'll be outside. I don't have nowhere else to go, man. That's the only.
I understand what you're saying, sir. Those are the bond conditions. Talk to the lawyer that I've appointed to represent you, sir. And maybe the lawyer can work something out for you. Okay.
All right.
Have a good day, sir.
Next is Mr. Dauphine.
Are you Kawan Dauphine?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Good morning, and sorry if I mispronounced your name. You've been charged with 1 count of driving under the influence. That bond is $5,000, and improper lane change. That bond is $500. There is a special condition to your bond, and that is to have no consumption of alcohol or illegal drugs. So your total bond amount is $5,500. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charges, your bond amount, and your bond conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed attorney. You do qualify, so I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Your next hearing date is your preliminary hearing date, and that's September 21st, 2021. But if you bond out, that date will be waived and you'll receive a new court date in the mail.
Yes,
you have any questions for me, sir?
No, ma'am.
Okay, have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, you too.
Your Honor, the ESPEJO, he's a fugitive, so we're gonna do him last. So next up, you have Mr. Ford.
All right, sounds good. Good morning, Mr. Ford.
Good morning, Your Honor.
You've been charged with 1 count of simple assault. That bond is $3,000, and 1 count of disorderly conduct. That bond is $1,500. So your total bond amount is $4,500. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as the charges and the bond?
Yes.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond, sir?
I should be able to.
Okay. There is a special condition to the bond, and that is to stay away and have no contact with the alleged victims. That's Tigress Wynn and Desiree Montgomery. Do you understand those conditions?
First time I've ever seen them.
Okay. So as far as the condition, I'm assuming you understand that though, sir, right? Okay. I did review your application for a court-appointed counsel. You do qualify to have an attorney represent you. So I am appointing an attorney to represent you in these proceedings. Your preliminary hearing date, because you're just charged with misdemeanors, is scheduled for September 21st, 2021. But if you bond out, sir, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new notice in the mail. Do you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Next is Mr. Fuse.
Are you Rayshard Fuse? Okay, well, sir, you've been charged with several offenses. There's an impeding traffic, driving while license suspended, no tag, possession of marijuana less than an ounce, possession of a controlled substance in violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act and identity fraud. The total bond amount between all of those charges is $12,000. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as the charges and the bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond? I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed counsel. You make more than the threshold requirement to appoint a lawyer to represent you, sir. So you're going to have to hire your own attorney. Do you plan to hire your own attorney or represent yourself?
On the side.
Okay. All right, your next court date is your preliminary hearing date, and that date is being scheduled for September 20th, 2021. If you do bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new court date in the mail. Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Fuse? Okay, have a good day. Thank you.
Next is Mr. Henry.
Are you Khalil Henry?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so sir, you've been charged with possession of carrying a concealed weapon. It's a misdemeanor offense. That bond is $5,000. A violation of a stop sign, that bond amount is $500, and violation of essentially driving distracted is what it's saying, meaning that you violated the hands-free driving law. That bond is $500. So your total bond amount between all of the charges is $6,000. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as the charges and the bond amount?
Yes, ma'am. I think my bond's already posted.
I don't know that it's already posted because not all of the bonds were preset. Your carrying a concealed weapon was preset at $5,000, but I had to fill in the other two. So you're probably gonna have to post a little bit higher than $5,000 because your bond is $6,000. But you say you'll be able to make bond, you believe?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have scheduled your preliminary hearing date for September 21st, 2021, since you're charged with all misdemeanors, and I have appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and like I mentioned, if you bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new notice.
One question: Is my emergency contact? Are they going to be notified about this?
Is your emergency contact going to be what?
Notified about my bond.
Yes. So once we complete the paperwork, whoever is bonding you out, any family members, any contacts, they'll be informed about this bond amount at the end of this hearing. Okay. All right. Have a good day.
The next is Mr. Izon.
Good afternoon. Are you Ade Eason? Okay, speak up just a little bit for me. I can't hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now did you complete an application for a court-appointed attorney?
No, ma'am. I didn't get a chance. I'm sorry.
Okay. So can deputies, if
we gave him
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I got it right here, y'all.
Okay.
Whenever he fills it out, I'll send it back at the end of the hearing.
Okay, so Mr. Easton, let me tell you what you've been charged with. You've been charged with battery. Let's see. Yeah, you've been charged with battery. Give me just 1 second.
Yes, he.
Run from somebody.
I'm sorry, there's something I need to check with Mr. Easton's file. So Mr. Easton, I'm gonna have to call you back up. If we can put him to the back of the line while I check on that once I get done. And I'll call you back up, Mr. Easton.
Yes, ma'am. Next we have Mr. Johnson, Christopher.
Good morning, are you Christopher Johnson? Okay, you've been charged with 1 count of simple battery. That bond has been set at $5,000. Do you understand your charge and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
There are special conditions to your bond, and that is to have no contact with Shanice Johnson, and you cannot go back to 1006 Chase Ridge Drive in Clayton County, Georgia. If it is a shared residence, it appears that it is, you can go back within 10 days of being released with the Sheriff's Department to collect any personal belongings that's not in dispute. Do you understand, Mr. Johnson, what I've mentioned as far as your special conditions?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, and I do have your application for court-appointed attorney. You do qualify, so I have appointed an attorney to represent you. Your next court date is your preliminary hearing date. That is being scheduled for September 21st, 2021. But if you do bond out like you believe you'll be able to, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new court notice in the mail. Okay.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome. You're welcome. Have a good day.
Next is Mr. Johnson, Napoleon.
Okay. Good morning, sir. Are you Napoleon Johnson?
Good morning to you, Your Honor.
Thank you. You have been charged with one count of possession of marijuana less than an ounce. It's a misdemeanor offense. That bond is $1,500. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charge and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
I've reviewed your application for a court-appointed attorney. And are you under any obligation to pay child support?
Oh, man, I was the custodial parent. I raised 9 sons by myself. I was a single father.
Okay.
Yes,
Well, okay. I was reviewing some of the income information you put here because you make slightly more than the threshold amount, sir, to qualify for a court-appointed attorney. So you will have to hire your own attorney to represent you in this proceeding. So you believe you're going to represent yourself, or you're going to try to hire a lawyer?
I'm gonna work by myself. Cause when I'm guilty, I'm guilty. I understand that.
Okay, hang on. Don't go into the facts of it because I don't want you to say anything to hurt your case. But you said you're probably going to represent yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I've indicated that, and your scheduled court date is September 21st, 2021. But if you bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll get a new court notice in the mail. You have any questions, sir?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good one.
Yes, ma'am.
Next is Mr. Kellum Wayne.
Are you Wayne Kellum Jr.?
Yeah.
Okay, sir, you've been charged with one count of criminal trespass. That bond is $2,000. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as the charge and the bond amount?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you do have a special condition to that, and that is you cannot go back to 1452 Green Willow Drive in Conley, Georgia. Is that a shared residence?
It is, ma'am.
Okay, so in this instance, I will state here that you can go back within 10 days of being released, accompanied by a sheriff's department or a sheriff's officer to retrieve any personal belongings that's not in dispute. Do you have any questions for me with regards to that condition?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so your preliminary hearing date is being scheduled for September 21st, 2021, but if you bond out, that hearing date will be waived. I did review your application for a court-appointed attorney and I have approved it. So I'm appointing an attorney to represent you. All right, you can have a good day, sir.
Thank you. Oh, I got one question. I need to get my belongings so I can pay for it. Like my ID card, you
need to get your money or something so you can pay for it.
My personal belongings, yes.
Okay, so just talk to the deputies there. I don't know their procedure and process, so just let them know that you have some your card or whatever you need and your personal items, so that way you can bond out. Okay, so talk to them there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is Mr. Long Bennett.
Good morning. Are you Bennett Franklin Long Jr.?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your
Okay.
Honor.
You've been charged with 4 counts of theft by deception. Each of those counts carry a bond amount of $2,000. So your total bond is $8,000. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charges and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Long, I did receive your application for a court-appointed counsel, and I have approved your request to be appointed, to have an attorney appointed to represent you. Your preliminary hearing date is being scheduled for September 21st, 2021, because you're charged with just misdemeanors. But if you do bond out like you believe you'll be able to, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new court notice in the mail. Do you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
All right, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Next is Mr. Lathong.
Are you Mr. Thong Lai?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mr. Lai, you've been charged with 1 count of malice murder as well as 1 count of tampering with evidence. I have denied bond on those charges. You will have a bond hearing date set for September 24th, 2021, and you have a preliminary hearing date set for September 20th, 2021. I reviewed your application for court-appointed counsel, and I have approved your request to have an attorney represent you. You have any questions for me, sir?
No, but I'm sorry because I'm English. I don't understand at all, you know, because I need the lawyer speak like Vietnamese. They help me like something. I want to go back to house, and then we clean up the house and the car, everything. I sell.
All right, hold on. It sounds like you're going into what may have happened. I don't want you to talk about what happened, okay? I don't want you to talk about what happened. These are very serious charges. Do you understand that you've been charged with murder? Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, hang on, hold on. My next question, do you understand that you've been charged with tampering with evidence?
I don't understand that. Because
okay. So hold on. Let me finish because you said you didn't understand. So I want to make sure that you understand. So I can read what the warrant says, what the officer said on the warrant. Do you want me to read to you what the officer said on the warrant?
Right.
Yes. Okay, hold on. Let me read it to you. So this is for the tampering with evidence charge. It says that on August 6, 2021 at 6671 Peacock Boulevard, Jonesboro, Georgia, you did commit the offense of tampering with evidence, which is a felony, in that you knowingly and intentionally tampered with evidence of a crime by hiding the firearm and spent casing in the chicken coop on your property. And you moved the body of the deceased to the side of the roadway from the backyard of your property. Okay, do you understand what I just read to you?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I don't want you to talk any further about that. I just want to make sure you understand. So I've denied your bond, but I am appointing an attorney to represent you. What language do you speak, sir?
Vietnamese.
Vietnamese?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to indicate on here that your native language is Vietnamese, so that way the attorney is aware, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any other questions about about the charges and the no bond or your court date?
Yeah, that I need get the lawyer pass a little bit, ma'am. They help me. I want to bond my body.
Okay, hang on. Don't go into any details. I've appointed a lawyer to represent you. At your court date, you will have an attorney, and your attorney will reach out to you before then to talk to you, okay?
Okay.
Okay, have a good day.
Next is Mr. Martin.
Good morning, are you Canars Martin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you've been charged with 1 count of criminal trespass. That bond is $1,500. Do you understand what I mentioned as far as your charge and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you do have some special conditions, sir, and that is to stay away and have no contact with Zakia Mitchell while this case is open, and you cannot go back to 5900 Riverdale Road, Building M, Apartment 1 in Clayton County, Georgia. It does indicate that there may be a shared residence, and if so, you can go back within 10 days of being released to retrieve any personal belongings that's not in dispute. Do you understand the bond conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed attorney, and you do qualify to have an attorney represent you. So I have appointed one. Do you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Next is Mr. McClendon. Leroy.
Good morning. Are you Leroy McClendon Jr.? Okay, sir, you've been charged with 1 count of trafficking marijuana, it looks like through the airport. I have denied bond on that charge. Do you understand what I mentioned as far as your charge and your bond? Your no bond?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Let her finish this. She's gonna ask you if you got questions.
Okay. And so your bond hearing date is being scheduled for September 24th, 2021. And your preliminary hearing date is being scheduled for September 20th, 2021. So you will be able to address the issue of bond at that time. And then also before that September 24th date, you'll have a probable cause hearing to see if there's enough probable cause to detain you on this trafficking marijuana charge. I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed counsel. And it looks like you make well beyond the threshold to have an attorney represent you. Do you plan on hiring your own attorney?
I plan on it. I had a question about the bond.
Okay, hang on. Let me make sure I give you all the information. You say you do plan on hiring your own attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What's your question, sir?
That denying bond creates special circumstances for me. I take care of an elderly mother who has dementia. And these past 4 days, I haven't even been in contact with her. I would like to try to bond out to find out where she is and if she's okay.
You may have to just get in touch with some family and friends to help you with that, sir. Unfortunately, that's a issue that's not within this court's realm to handle. So that's something you'll have to figure out. But I'm just, based on this charge and the allegation in the warrantless arrest affidavit, I cannot grant a bond at this time.
Yeah. Will there be a bond possibly before the 24th?
You say you plan on hiring an attorney, is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
So if you hire an attorney, your attorney can certainly reach out to the state before September 24th to enter into maybe a consent bond or see if they can resolve something before then. Make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Next is Mr. Norman.
Are you Maurice Norman?
No.
Okay. You've been charged with 1 count of driving under the influence. That bond is $5,000. and one count of violating the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. That bond is $2,500. So your total bond amount is $7,500. You also have a special condition, which is to not consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your charges, your bond, and that special condition?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am. Y'all do any 10% down?
I don't know. You have to talk to the bonding company because their percentages vary. So just talk to the bonding companies and they'll tell you how much it will be. I did review your application for a court-appointed attorney. You do qualify to have an attorney represent you. So I am appointing counsel for you. Your court date is the preliminary hearing date, which is scheduled for September 21st, 2021. But that court date will be waived in the event that you bond out. Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Norman?
I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Next is Mr. Root Mikhail B. John. Malik, my bad. Malik.
Okay, Mr. Malik Root or Route, is that your name, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry if I mispronounced your name. You have been charged with one count of trafficking marijuana, looks like through the airport as well. I've denied bond on that offense, but I've scheduled a bond hearing date for you. That's September 24th, 2021. And your preliminary hearing date is September 20th, 2021. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as the bond hearing date, what you've been charged with, and your preliminary hearing date?
Yes, ma'am. I have a question.
Let her finish and she'll ask you.
Yes, ma'am.
I did review your application for a court-appointed attorney, and you do qualify, so I am appointing an attorney to represent you in these proceedings. What's your question, Mr. Route?
If I come up with the money to get a lawyer, do you think you could they talk to you or to see if I can get a bond before the 24th?
So the question is yes, that's the short answer. The explanation is I am appointing an attorney to represent you as well. So if you decide to hire your own attorney, that's completely fine. That may be a quicker route for you to go. But yes, when you do hire an attorney, your attorney's goal will probably be to reach out to the prosecutors to see if they can reach an agreement on bond before that date. So yes, you may want to get on the phone, start making some phone calls, see who you can get in touch with and hire. But if you don't hire anyone, we are appointing an attorney to represent you on that date. Understood, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Have a good day.
Next is Mr. Stevens Willie E. Jr.
Good morning, sir. Are you Willie E. Stevens Jr.?
Yes.
Okay, you've been charged with one count of terroristic threats. That bond amount is set at $5,000. Do you understand your charge and your bond amount?
Yes.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
I hope so. If I can make a phone call.
Okay, you do have a condition to the bond. Mr. Stevens, you were to stay away and have no contact with Cassandra Lewis. Do you understand that?
I don't know the woman, so I don't deal with her.
Okay, well, it should be easy for you to have no contact with her then. So I'm leaving that condition in there though. As far as your application for a court-appointed counsel, I have approved your request based on your responses. So an attorney will be appointed to represent you. Your preliminary hearing date is being scheduled for September 21st, 2021. If you bond out, that hearing date will be waived and you'll receive a new one in the mail. You have any questions, Mr. Stevens?
No, ma'am.
All right, you may be excused. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Next is Mr. Taylor Cyrus Timothy.
Are you Cyrus Taylor, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you've been charged with one count of giving a false name, address, and or date of birth. That's a misdemeanor offense. Your bond is set at $2,000. Do you understand the charge and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
I'm not sure, ma'am. I understand.
Okay. I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed counsel. You do qualify to have an attorney represent you. So I am appointing an attorney. You can certainly talk to your attorney about your best options. Your court date is being scheduled for September 21st, 2021. If you do bond out, you'll receive a new notice in the mail with the new court date. If you don't bond out, you'll be brought before the court on September 21st, 2021 to see if there's enough evidence to detain you on these charges. You have any questions for me, sir? Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Next, Mr. Walter Lee.
Good morning. Are you Walter Lee Wallace?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you've been charged with one count of battery. That bond is $6,000. And then one count of giving a false name. That bond is $1,500. So your total bond amount is $7,500. Do you understand the charges and the bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think you'll be able to make bond, Mr. Wallace?
Yes, ma'am.
You do have some special conditions, and that is to have no contact with Victor Deshaun Malone. Also, you cannot return to 5758 Highway 85, apartment 19H in Riverdale, Georgia. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as those bond conditions?
Ma'am, that's why I stated, ma'am, the incident with me and the guy was never at that apartment, that address.
Okay, hold on. Let me take a look at something here based on what you said. One moment. Okay, so Mr. Wallace, I did review the paperwork again, and it does indicate that you all are not related. It does not indicate that you all live together at that residence. So I'm gonna remove that condition.
So much, ma'am.
Okay, so the only condition is to stay away and have no contact with Victor Malone, okay? All right, so I've reviewed your application for a court-appointed attorney, and I am approving your request to have an attorney represent you. Your next court date is your preliminary hearing date, and that is being scheduled for September 21st, 2021. But if you bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new notice in the mail. Okay, you have any questions for me, sir? All right, have a good day.
Next is Mr. West Lawrence Terrell.
Okay, are you Lawrence West?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Mr. West, you have been charged with one count of cruelty to animals. That is a felony offense. Your bond is set at $3,500. Do you understand the charge and the bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I've reviewed your application for a court-appointed attorney. You do qualify to have an attorney represent you. So I have approved your request. Your next court date, because you are charged with a felony, that date is September 20th, 2021. But if you do bond out, like you believe you'll be able to do so, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new notice in the mail. You have any questions for me, Mr. West?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. You're excused.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is Mr. Wood Frederick James.
Are you Frederick Woods?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Mr. Woods, you've been charged with one count of simple assault. That bond is set at $3,000. Do you understand the charge and the bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
If I can get to my property here, yes, ma'am.
All right, now I have set special conditions for this bond, and that is to stay away and have no contact with Brittany Rogers. And also you're to not return to 5985 Maddox Road in Morrow, Georgia. It was indicated that I believe that is a shared residence. Is that correct?
Brittany Rogers is not a resident of my address. I'm the leaser. All my truck and my car, all my clothes are there, and that is my address. Brittany Rogers is not a resident of that address.
Well, it does indicate on here that you all have been living together for over 1.5 years.
She's not. She's not been there that long. She's not on my lease. Only 2 people are on my lease. Me and Willie Johnson.
I understand that, Mr. Woods. I'm going to leave that on here, and that's because in this instance, unlike the other cases, in this instance, the officer did indicate that you all have been living together at that residence for over 1.5 years. So I'm going to leave that in there, but you can go back to retrieve any personal belongings that's not in dispute within 10 days of being released. And also you can, let me look at this. I am going to appoint an attorney to represent you because you qualify based on your responses on your application. Now you can always go back and talk to your lawyer about modifying the bond conditions to make sure that you're able to go back to your residence. You can certainly do that in advance of any court proceeding. But I just want to caution you, if she's there, you can't be there because that's what I've listed on here. Your preliminary hearing date is being scheduled for September 21st, 2021. But if you do bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new notice in the mail. So just make sure we have your updated address. You have any questions for me, Mr. Woods?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm good.
All right. Thank you and have a good day. Thank you.
I'm going to bring back up Mr. Ison. You should have his CA form in your email, y'all.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take a look at it, and then I just want to look quickly at his criminal history again. So I'll be right back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm ready for Mr. I think it's Ison.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, are you a day Ison?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Mr. Ison, I want to ask you, do you live in the same household with Stacy Childs?
No, ma'am. I was running from that woman.
Y'all share children together?
No, ma'am. I was actually, I had the children of a friend of mine that I was aiding and assisting. They had got addicted. She came and picked us up. She was questioning the children when I got out the car. And when I came back, she was like, "Oh, you sleeping with that girl," and attacked me. And I jumped out of the car and I told the kids, come with me. And I ran down the street and she started trying to attack me. That's how this incident happened, Mom. I don't live with Stacy. I don't call Stacy. I don't talk to Stacy. Stacy actually be calling, harassing me. I should have a TPO put out on her.
Okay, hold on, Mr. Ison. I just need to complete a couple of things here. Okay, so the warrant indicated that Stacy Childs is your fiance.
No, she's not.
Okay.
We was dating. We was kicking it, you know, but we ain't married. We ain't in no relationship or none of that. She was trying to come back into my life, and it just so happened she called me up, and I needed a ride, and I let her give me a ride. And this is how this all this took place. After she's questioning some children. Man, it's crazy.
Okay, so you've been charged with one count of battery. That bond is set at $7,000. Hang on, Mr. Ison.
I ain't did.
Let her finish.
Mr. Ison, you've been charged with one count of battery. That bond is set at $7,000, and one count of cruelty to children. That bond is set at $3,000. Your total bond amount is $10,000. And as a special condition, you are to stay away and have no contact with Stacy Childs. Do you understand what I've mentioned as far as your bond amount, sir, and the special condition?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think you'll be able to make bond?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I hope so. I hope so.
Okay, because it does indicate here too that you're on, it appears that you're on probation. So your probation officer may choose to violate you as well. I'm not sure, but they will be given an opportunity to have a say-so in this situation. I have reviewed your application for a court-appointed counsel, and you do qualify to have an attorney represent you. So I am going to appoint an attorney, sir, to represent you in these proceedings. Your court date is going to be your preliminary hearing date, and that date is going to be scheduled for September 21st, 2021. Do you have any questions for me, sir?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day, sir.
The last one is our fugitive, young.
Okay. Are you Joffer Espejo?
Yes, Your Honor.
And sorry if I mispronounced it. I'm so sorry. How do you say your name?
Joffer Espejo. You got it right now.
Okay. All right. Okay, so Mr. Espejo, your hearing today is going to be a little different from everyone else's hearing. What I mentioned earlier, though, at the onset with the announcement still applies in your case. And so this hearing for you is what is called an extradition hearing. All of the rights that I advise also apply in your case. But I want to tell you specifically, you don't have pending charges here in Clayton County, Georgia. You have been brought to court today because you have charges pending against you in another state, and they are requesting that you return to that state to answer to these charges. Do you already have an attorney representing you in this matter?
In California, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have an attorney in California, but not this particular case.
For the extradition?
Correct.
I don't have, ma'am. I cannot for it at this time, ma'am.
Okay. So you were charged with being a fugitive from justice as follows. It says on the warrantless arrest affidavit that you did enter and remain in the state of Georgia, knowing that you are wanted by the San Jose Police Department in California for sexual assault. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to OCGA Title 17, Chapter 13. And as you have heard, it is alleged that you were charged with sexual assault in the state of California by San Jose Police Department. You do have a choice as to whether you wish to contest extradition or waive extradition and be returned to the state of California without going through the formal extradition process. Now, if you decide that you wish to contest extradition, the court may commit you to the county jail for an initial period of 25 days. Initial period of 30 days. During that time, a warrant will be prepared under the Georgia governor's signature for your extradition to the other state. Now, the court may consider allowing you to post a bond, but the court is not required to do so to allow bond in your case. And because you are wanted by another state, I am not setting a bond in your case at this time. If you do not wish to voluntarily return to the state of California, you may file what is called a writ of habeas corpus to contest the extradition. The writ of habeas corpus can only contest 4 things if you want to go that route. The first thing is you can contest whether the extradition documents are in order on their face. The second thing is you can contest whether you are charged with a crime that actually exists in the state of California. The third thing is you can contest whether you are the person that's actually named in the request for the extradition. And the fourth thing is you can contest whether you are in fact a fugitive from justice, but you cannot contest your guilt or innocence in this state. So you are entitled to have the advice of counsel in contesting extradition or in deciding whether to waive extradition. If the state is unable to extradite you within 30 days, meaning if California is not able to extradite you within 30 days, you may still be committed to the Clayton County Jail for an additional 60 days waiting your extradition. If the extradition is not completed within 90 days, at that time, you will be released. Now, do you wish to contest extradition or waive formal extradition and voluntarily return to California to answer to the charge against you?
I would like to voluntarily return to California.
Okay. So you will need to sign several copies of the waiver of extradition form. Correct, the form that you just held up. And so I will sign it. Once I get it, I will sign it. And the department there that handles extraditions will start processing the paperwork. And you'll be remanded back to the custody of the sheriff. So then your extradition proceedings will begin. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
All right, so just make sure you sign that paperwork. I'll get it signed and we'll get it back over to you. If there's nothing further, sir, you can be excused and have a good day.
My Honor, I have a question.
Yes.
I was in hiding in the state of Georgia. My wife and I came from Italy because I have an orders to report to San Jose Naval Operations Support Center. It's a reserve unit. On a report date is supposedly August 6th. I got flagged here in Atlanta. I'm supposed to, because I have orders to also report. I'm aware of the warrant of arrest that Santa Clara County has given me. And that's why I was going back to San Jose. I was following all the procedures, all the orders that I was given by my chain of command from Italy, by the Navy, and by the law.
Okay. Well, you don't have any charges here in Georgia. So I appreciate that information, but we won't be holding you for anything as far as any criminal charges here. It's only to return you to California so you can answer to those charges. So what you just mentioned to me, make sure your California lawyer knows. And so that way, you know, if California plans on bringing any extra charges, you know, with them having that information that you mentioned, that will probably help your situation. So definitely mention that to your lawyer. You have any other questions?
Oh yes, ma'am. Do I need a lawyer for this extradition?
Well, I mean, that's a decision you have to make, but you've already mentioned that you want to voluntarily waive, right? And return to California. Yeah, so we're not going to have a hearing. We're done. There's nothing else for us to take care of here except to sign the waiver papers and give it to you and start processing it so that way you can return back to California.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Well, have a good day, sir. Best of luck. You're welcome.
Yeah, that completes the list for today.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.